Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, this is a doozy. You can do this. Because this is Airwindows Consolidated. In clap format. Yikes. I'm supposed to be able to do this a little bit more smoothly than that, but bear with me. Here we have the new breed of Airwindows plugins that doesn't technically come from me directly, because this is Airwindows Consolidated. This comes out of people who work on Surge XT, namely Paul, Bacon Paul, from Surge XT. And you might notice something a little bit familiar about it, and that is because this is using some of the same technology used for my rack plugin. That's who made that possible. Airwindows rack support also comes from Paul of the Surge XT project. And some of my choices in making new plugins, for instance, some of my choices are involved around making that work most effectively. Like what you see here is Galactic. But it's not just the version of Galactic that I put out as an individual plugin. This is the consolidated. It might not look like much. It might not be many megabytes in size, but there are many things in this plugin. For instance, you've got some versions of console in here, utility plugins, the X, Y, and Z filters. You can read the plugin manual, which is on the web, or visit airwindows.com, and here are some settings. For instance, you get a light setting, and it will follow the setting that your system is set to whatever extent that works for you. It will attempt to do that. We can also have Chris order menus, meaning that rather than being alphabetical, but let's also note that I have a text search for this, and see what we've got. We've got a bunch of different categories, and it's giving our little blurbs for how these things work. But with the quality settings, this is in line with the things which I think are better. For instance, I am fond of K Cathedral, because that's the one where I'm trying to make it act more like Bricastes, although I'm not done with that necessarily. Oh, one other thing. If you're seeing this, you might have tried K Cathedral or K Cathedral 2 and found that it wasn't as reliable as the other plugins were. In doing this project, somebody found the bug that caused that to sometimes occasionally crash on people, including me. So we fixed it. And this plugin, Airwindows Consolidated, was the first to see the bug fix. I just had to fix it on GitHub and rebuild it, and off it went, and then the new version didn't have the bug anymore. And then we've also got this here, which is filter by collection. Because one of the problems with having all the Airwindows plugins available to you in one plugin is that it might be a little bit overwhelming. So you select Basic in Filter by Collection, and let's go back to the dark setting so that it matches what I see on the Reaper here. You filter to Basic. It starts out as recommended, and then you have a very limited set of things that are pretty much normal. They're like what you would do if you were starting out and you didn't know much about anything, and so you were trying to find out what kinds of plugins do what. And these are all things, not necessarily the most primitive things, like Creature, for instance, is but your basics give you simple things that you can use to just do direct stuff, obvious things. And you can see that I have a lot of commentary going on, all that stuff as well. But basics means this is what you can learn on if you don't really know much about Airwindows or plugins or any of that stuff. It sticks to simple things that you might be able to figure out, like low passes. Here is Z low pass 2. Paul actually likes Z low pass so much that he would love to have it live in Surge. I will see whether I can help that happen. Apparently, not only do I have trouble coding from things like the way Surge codes filters, but also he's having some trouble working out how I code filters. So we're working on it. We have things like latest, and if you choose latest, what you end up getting is things like the most recent versions of whatever. You'll note that we have Galactic 2 in latest, because I enjoyed what I did with it and tried to make it do a distinct thing. But if we filter with recommended, turns out that people absolutely love the original Galactic. And so that's what lies into recommended, which is what we default to. And then, of course, this is also an available option, all plugins. And as you can see, when you look at all plugins, there are many plugins you can fool with. All of these consoles. This is in Chris order rather than alphabetical order. Chris order means the ones that I think are the best and most likely to get you good results are going to be on the top of the list. You'll note that in Reverb, I do still have Galactic rated very highly, even though I did Galactic 2. Which I think has its own benefits. Because I was doing it for doing a different purpose. And then we've got the original K Cathedral. We've got the newer K Cathedral. I may do a K Cathedral 3 and see if I can make them even better. And just literally everything that you could imagine. Apparently I still have some unclassified ones. Now, you might think that that's everything. See, we've got all plugins, and we can look at this enormous quantity of things here. Like, here's filter, There's a lot going on in Filter. For instance, here's Stonefire. We can boost the airband here, or do stuff with these. These are Kalman filters. And we can do all of this kind of stuff. And there's a lot. There is an extraordinarily lot for all of this. Here's another one that you didn't even see before because it is called Huge. Sort of like a big boost. And you might think that was everything. But no, because this comes out of the Surge Synthesizer project. What I'm doing is supplying all of these different options that you can go through in order to attempt anything that you might wish out of here. And these all live in one plugin, and it's a clap plugin, meaning that this is sort of the future of plugins. A lot of different things support this. Clearly Reaper does. Bitwig also is good for that. This is probably going to be the plugin format of the future going forwards. And I'm delighted to be able to offer my stuff in it because it would be an awful lot of work for me to do these one at a time. I'm also putting out VST3 and AU and LV2 and a lot of other stuff that supports people legacy formats to support the widest possible range. But speaking of widest possible range, check this out.
Voiceover on Reaper. Clap, Airwindows Consolidated, Airwindows, Master Track, 4/4, window. So the idea, entering huge saturation, leaving huge saturation, select Air window. Main menu button.
This
You are
is
currently on a select previous from
voice
huge
support.
button. You are currently select next from 0.70. Huge is a dirty loudinator. So the idea here
Yes,
was
it
to
is.
explore a trick people are doing with Buffnutty, adding just a few odd harmonics to get really smooth and mellow saturation. You can keep going, and the more harmonics you add, the closer you get to a square wave or just really intense saturation. But when you intentionally pick just a couple, it means all your lower frequencies are totally free of aliasing, since you're not really saturating. Just doing a transform that gives you only the added harmonics. If those are below the Nyquist frequency, you automatically have zero aliasing. Voiceover off.
This is screen reader support coming out of the Surge Synthesizer project, and Paul, who was able to implement this, that will work along with the tiny explanation text that goes along with every single plugin. Why shouldn't people who have impaired vision have assistance at being able to make audio using this full range of plugins? I ask you. Well, thanks to Paul and Airwindows Consolidated, Airwindows plugins are now available in Clap and in VST3 and in LV2 and in AU and all of that kind of stuff. And with all of this going on, with this kind of support, which is a little over my head, I wouldn't be able to do it myself. And so, there you have it, really. And we can put on clip only 2 here. See, there are no parameters. That's what's dropping for this week. I think it's a big enough deal. We're going to get into the next plugin, which is most likely going to be discontinuity next week. And when I do, go and download this again from the place that I showed you it was. I'll show it again, I guess, because this is available right now. You go to this webpage, which I will link to. It says doc.manual.md, and here's a picture of the plugin. You can access the complete source code because this is open source. My stuff is MIT licensed, and stuff that's based off of the Juice is GPL'd. Or just download a binary, click on that, go here. Whenever a new version comes out, download the new version. You will see that there are dates on it, and the new version will contain my new plugin built in with the documentation and all of that kind of stuff, and all the things that I showed you, all available. That is for Mac OS, including Apple Silicon, and Linux. And there are 2 different Windows versions available. This one is for if you don't want to just download the zip file and place the plugin into the relevant folders yourself. This one has an installer, much like I saw in the DMG file, and will put things in there for you. And it's also smaller, which is interesting. And there you have it, really. That's the plugin for this week. Literally all the plugins. And my hope is that that's going to make stuff more accessible. Like I said, I've just demonstrated some of those things, but everything is there and available for you to play with. You can have it be a light system color or a dark system color. All the stuff that has 10 controls to it or less will load up in that. It's the same as the VCV Rack plugin, so if you like what you saw, you can also do exactly the same thing in VCV Rack. And yeah, it's a lot, which is why while coding this and putting it together, Paul did pretty much all of the work, but not literally all of it, because other people are pitching in on that project as well. And it's still being upgraded and developed a little bit. It's still available for like comments and assistance. And I'm doing what I can to also help the process along, as well as supplying all the plugins that it uses and makes available to you. So now it's very thoroughly available on Clap, and it's also very thoroughly available on VST3 for Mac and Windows and Linux and all of these things. I really hope you like it, and I'll be back next week adding new plugins in my traditional way, but also adding new plugins to this, most likely every week. It is usually the case that I put out a dedicated plugin that is standalone, which is a lot more work for me to put out the individual ones and go through that whole process. But, this is going to run right along with the rack build process, and I hope you like it, because I sure do. Thank you very much for hearing me out, and I hope new people discover all of this. In particular, use that functionality of the recommended plugins and the basic plugins, because there's a lot. You might not want to dig through the all setting immediately. Explore a little bit first and see what you can make happen out of all of this, because it is a very large library of a whole bunch of weird plugins and things. The documentation is built into the plugin, so you can see what everything has to say for itself. And with the basic and recommended and so on, you can get a bit of a head start at what to look at first. Also note that menu where it defaults to alphabetical, and then you get an option of Chris order. I'm very grateful to Paul for letting me have that one, because what that means is when you go to all, you at least have some hints as to what I thought was going to get you the best results in any given category. And that's why I've set it up that way, because again, there's a lot to dig through, but hopefully you'll have a lot of fun digging through everything. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.